Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be talking about all the 2025 book releases that I'm excited about. So I have 17 books on my list that actually have dates attached, and then like another 16 books that are possibly more aspirational, but I wanted to mention them because they are on my radar. Some of them have been on my radar for a long time, but they're books that I am hoping might appear at some point, maybe even this year. Anyway, let's talk about the more concrete releases of 2025. So firstly, in January, there is a Locke Lamora novella on the cards. So this is called Locke Lamora and the Bottled Serpents. And it's being released as part of the Grimdark magazine. So I think part 1 has actually already been released. Part 2 is being released in the January edition. And to be honest, this isn't my preferred way of consuming fictional content, but I do really like the Gentleman Bastard series with Locke Lamora and his band of con artists. And it's been a long time since the 3rd book came out, so while we wait for the 4th book, it would be nice to have a little bit more. I am a little bit concerned that Scott Lynch is talking about not only this release, but also like a series of 3 novellas before he finally gets to that 4th book, which makes me concerned that that 4th book is just never coming. But regardless, I think the Grimdark magazine isn't too expensive, so I'll probably look into getting a little bit of Locke Lamora this way when it comes out. Then on the 7th of January, we have Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by Sean M. Maguire. And to be honest, I'm only mentioning this one because I want you guys to all try and convince me not to pick this up. So this is I want to say the 9th book in the Wayward Children series by Sean M. Maguire. Some of the books at the beginning of that series I absolutely loved. We're following this group of children who have found magical doors through to magical worlds and then for whatever reason found themselves back in our world and really not that happy about it. So there is this home for wayward children where they can stay while they try to find their doors again and have, you know, the comfort of having other children around them who've had similar experiences. And these books do have a lot of really great representation of traumatic experiences or different experiences that children might go through. However, personally, I've found those stories to be lacking in depth, like more and more as the series continues. I know this is not a popular opinion. Lots of people are still loving that series. I think it might be time for me to just give up. The only reason why I'm hesitant is 1, I'm a completionist, but 2, I think there's only going to be 10 books in the series, so I'm so close to the end. Should I just keep going? I shouldn't. I should just not read something I'm not going to enjoy. But if you've been liking that series, there's another one coming out. I'm going to try not to get sucked in. Did I say the 14th of January or the 7th of January? I don't know. That one's the 7th. The next book that I'm going to talk about is coming out on the 14th of January, and that is Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. So I really loved both Binti and Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor, so I'm excited to pick up something else by her. And this one is something about a disabled, unemployed writer who writes a story about AI, and then somehow the lines between reality and fiction are blurring. I don't really know, but the end of the synopsis says sometimes a story really does have the power to reshape the world, and I am intrigued, so I'm keen to pick this one up. Then on the 25th of February, we have The Amber Owl by Juliette Marillier. So once again, I really liked Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. I will admit I continued on with the Seven Waters series and I didn't think it continued on as strongly. And there's definitely other things by Juliette Marillier that I haven't read, similar to Nnedi Okorafor, to be honest. But still, I'm drawn in more by the pretty new releases. And to be honest, the synopsis of The Amber Owl is giving me Princess Bride vibes, because we have this woman living in an isolated farming village. She has some kind of affinity with animals, but then there is this farm boy that she's perhaps got some kind of relationship with, and they're forming a relationship around stories. Now obviously this comes across as being a bit of a romantasy, which isn't normally my thing, but as I said, I've loved some things by Juliette Marillier before, so I'm hopeful. Then on the 4th of March, we have The River Has Roots by Amal El-Motar. So this is the same author as This Is How You Lose the Time War, or at least one of the two authors of that, which is really beautiful, and I have it right here. I really love it. So I'm hoping The River Has Roots will be like the same kind of beautiful lyrical writing style. I believe it follows two sisters who live on the edge of fairy, and they tend these like magical trees by singing to them or singing to the fairies. I'm not entirely clear on the details, but then it seems like these two sisters also care a lot for themselves, and the synopsis says something about how not even death can separate them. This is a fairly short one, but I'm hoping short and beautiful. Then on the 18th of March, we are finally getting the fourth book in the Lady Astronaut series, The Martian Contingency. So this series is an alternate history where in the 50s, a meteor hit the Earth and basically accelerated climate change, set things in motion where the planet is going to become uninhabitable. So then we're following women who are involved in the space program because it's now become very important for humans to find a way off the planet and find a way to live or continue living once our planet is no longer habitable. So the third book in the series actually followed a different woman, but I think in the fourth book we're going to come back to our main lady astronaut, and I think in this one we're going to be on a mission to Mars. So these book series, as well as having like these space exploration adventures, also have like a lot of politics and feminism, and while it's like clearly very important that these space missions happen, there's also quite a big political pushback against what's going on. So there's often also sabotage, and I think that's what's going to be happening here. It's been a while since we had a Lady Astronaut book, so I'm excited to get back to the series. Then on the 1st of April, we have Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. So I have a mixed relationship with Olivia Blake. I really like her as a person. I love hearing her talk about her writing, and I have loved a couple of her books. I've also been quite disappointed in some of her books, and I often think, while I appreciate her approach to writing, I don't always like the outcome, but I still kind of like reading her stuff so that I can hear her talk about it. I'm not sure that's sensible, but I'm still kind of interested in Gifted and Talented. I think this is a story about like some kind of magical CEO who dies, and then his 3 children who all have their own magical powers as well as their own like personal trauma, because of course it's Olivia Blake. So they basically have to come back and work out who's going to inherit their father's empire. As I said, mixed feelings about this one. I kind of think I won't like it, but also I really want to try it. Then on the 8th of April, we have The Book That Held Her Heart by Mark Lawrence. So this is the third book in the Library trilogy, which started with The Book That Wouldn't Burn. So this is a series that has kind of gotten more expansive as it's gone along. The first book, though, followed a couple of characters, one who lived in the desert and had big dreams of going to the city and having big adventures there. She does get to go to the city, but perhaps not in the way that she would have expected. And also she does eventually meet up with this other guy who has lived his whole life trapped in this library. The library itself is kind of magical in a almost technological way. There's some really big themes being explored. I have really loved some things about the series and also struggled a little bit again with the execution, but I'm still really interested to see what Mark Lawrence will do with that third book, so I'll definitely be picking that up. So then on the 15th of April, we have the third volume of The Night Eaters by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. So this volume is called Their Kingdom Come. This is a hard series to talk about. It's a graphic novel series following, I guess, like a couple of twins whose parents have come back. It starts out kind of in COVID times. Their parents have kind of come to help them out with this restaurant that they're running, and their mother is very unimpressed with the way that they're living their lives and decides that they need to harden up. And part of how she does this is to get them to look into this haunted house. It's very dark in parts and very strange, but I'm very interested to see what direction it's going to go in, so I'll definitely be picking that up. Then on the 1st of May, although I'm not sure if this is like an official definite date, but we have Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the latest Kickstarter book, secret project type novel that Brandon's doing. I think the idea is that the Kickstarter release will come out in 2025, mid 2025, and then there'll be an actual release to the wider public in 2026. So this is set in the same world as Sixth of Dusk, I think, where we kind of have like magical birds. I probably won't say much more about it than that. I don't know that I really remember that much more about it. But if you like the Cosmere, then you're probably already excited to read it. I mean, I think if you haven't already bought it, you've probably missed out for now, so don't worry about it. Then on the 6th of May, we have The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. So Joe Abercrombie wrote the first lore series that I read over the last kind of year and a half, and I really enjoyed it. I have kind of been actively avoiding proper synopsises of The Devils. All I know is it's going to be a Grimdark story, completely separate from Joe Abercrombie's other works, so more of a standalone. I'm sure there'll be some morally grey, if not actually morally corrupt characters doing terrible things. Even though I enjoyed the First Law world less and less as I went through the series, I did still really love all the books. And I do really love Joe Abercrombie's writing style, and I think I would like something new with him. I think maybe I just got a little bit tired of the First Law world, so I'm excited to see him doing something different and hoping I'll really love it. Then on the 8th of May, we have The Lord of Demons by Evan Winter. So this is the third book in the Burning trilogy, which started with Rage of Dragons. So this is another series where I was a little bit disappointed with the execution, but I am excited to see where it will go next. I think the first book really focuses in on this boy named Tao, who is on this kind of revenge mission in this world where I can't remember what spoilers. I don't know. Anyway, there's some magical things going on. The women are actually the ones who properly do magic, and I was very disappointed that we didn't get enough of them and their magic. We did get a little bit more in book 2 though, so I'm hoping for more of that in book 3. I'm now thinking that I really don't remember enough about this series, so maybe I have to do a bit of a reread before I go into book 3. But there were definitely some interesting magical concepts in this book series, as well as like quite an emotional character journey, even if it was sometimes a little bit repetitive. And it's been a while since book 2, so let's see how book 3's come along. Okay, editing me here because I cannot believe I missed out. The 3rd of June, we're getting The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater, who's the author of The Raven Cycle and also All the Crooked Saints and the Scorpio Races and a bunch of other stuff that I've really loved. So she's releasing The Listeners, which I think is about this like magical hotel. I'm a little bit concerned because I've seen it specifically listed as general fiction rather than fantasy, and I prefer it to lean more into fantasy, although I've also seen it say magical realism, and that would fit with All the Crooked Saints, which is actually one of my favorites by her, so we'll see, I guess, but I'm definitely very excited for that one, and I can't believe I missed it out. Then on the 10th of June, we have The Witch Roads by Kate Elliott, which is the first book in a new series. I have read Kate Elliott before, but admittedly only kind of her earlier works, and there are some book series in between that I would like to try, but I also think I would like to just try something completely new by Kate Elliott and see how her writing has progressed since her earliest works, because I really love a lot of her ideas and her cultural analysis in her earlier works, but there were also some things about the execution I didn't like, but a lot of that could be like her experience as a writer, but also just like general changes in writing style in more modern times. So I really want to try this. The picture is really beautiful. It's something about a young woman who used to be a child slave, now having to take this arrogant prince on a journey. Seems like it's going to be very political with some dark magic, which is what I would expect from Kate Elliott given the previous things I've read, especially the Crown of Stars series that I read by her. I'm hoping though she can keep this series to like a more reasonable length than the Crown of Stars series, but let's see. Then on the 17th of June, we have something that is a 5-star prediction for me, and that is School of Shards. So this is the 3rd book in the Vita Nostra series. I think this has actually been released in Russian for a while, but we're finally getting an English translation. So the first 2 books are about this young girl who ends up going to this very strange school, the Institute of Special Technologies, I think it's called. When she gets to the school, she kind of ends up there not even really knowing what it's about. and it becomes very clear straight away that there's something weird going on. None of their lessons really make sense. There's direct consequences to their loved ones if they're not doing well in class. And like there's a lot of messing with time and reality, and it's just a very strange series, but I love it. I will admit the second book wasn't as good as the first book, but honestly, it doesn't have to be to still be amazing, so I'm excited to get more of that story. Then apparently, I'm not sure if I trust this date, but apparently on the 25th of September, we're supposed to be getting the second book in the Amina al-Sarafi series. So this is following this woman who is a pirate, or she was a pirate. She gets pulled back into this final quest. And then there's kind of a setup for her to continue doing more quests in that first book. So I expect in the second book, she'll be going on another exciting quest. And hopefully we'll get more of that demon-y guy, because he was interesting. I will admit, there were some parts of the first book. Was it just called The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi? Or is that the series name? I've kind of forgotten and I haven't written it down. But anyway, there were some parts of it that I really didn't like, especially I think where there are some links into Shannon Chakraborty's previous series, the Davabad series. I felt like those bits really dragged for me, and I did try that series, didn't really like it. So hopefully book 2 will be more of its own thing and have less of those connections. I'm not sure that's what actual fans of that first series will be wanting, but that's what I would like. Then on the 7th of October, we have Queen Demon by Martha Wells. So this is the sequel to Witch King, which when it came out was promoted as a standalone. Watch out for publishers doing that thing where they pretend it's a standalone and then it's a series. Not my favorite. Like, let me go in with the right expectations, you know? Anyway, I had my guesses when I read Witch King that it was actually going to become a series, so I'm kind of proud to say I was right. And I don't know anything about it other than I guess it will continue the story. So the first book, we basically followed this guy named Kai, who was a demon. He wakes up in a different body because as a demon, he basically possesses different bodies, usually with their permission, because he's not really a bad guy. But he wakes up in a different body and has to try and work out what's happened to his previous body, and there's a bit of betrayal going on. I had some massive problems with the structure of that first book that I think really took away from what could have been a really great story. So I'm hopeful the second book will somehow do a little bit better. But again, I guess we'll see. And then finally, the last book that kind of has a date is Monstrous Volume 10. So I haven't read Volume 9 yet. It's only just come out, I think, in November. And I think we'll get another volume next November, because that seems to be the pattern that we've fallen into. Like, I think we used to get 2 volumes of Monstrous every year. Now it looks like only 1 coming out a year. And I'm happy with that because I want Sana Takeda and Marjorie Liu to, like, do their best with it. To be honest, Volume 8 was probably my least favourite of the series so far, so I'm hoping that Volume 9 and Volume 10 are gonna bring it all back for me. Okay, so I've been talking for ages. Let's try and go more quickly through the books that are less firm. I actually have a list of books that I was hoping would come out in 2025, but it looks like they're 2026, but like maybe magic will happen and they'll come earlier. Firstly, we have Maggie the Undying by Alona Andrews. So this is like a portal fantasy following a girl who's kind of found herself in this magical world and I think is having a pretty terrible time. Alona Andrews is one of my favorite authors, so I'll be keeping an eye out for that. As well, Ninth House 3. It seems unlikely from everything I've heard that Leigh Bardugo would get that out in 2025. So it's probably 2026, but you never know. To be honest, this is another one where I'm not sure I should continue with the series, but I probably will anyway, even though I'm not sure the direction the books are going in is really to my preference. Also Lightfall by Tim Probert. This is another graphic novel series. It's super cute. So Volume 3 came out in 2024. I had a look. It looks like we're getting 1 volume every 2 years. So even though I would like the next one to come out 2025, 2026 is probably more realistic. And the same goes for the Bobiverse series. So this follows this guy who dies and has himself frozen so that later he can be brought back to life, but he then wakes up in the brain of a spaceship that is able to clone itself. So then we end up with kind of a whole bunch of Bobs these spaceships spreading out across the universe, having adventures, dealing with scientific problems. I really love the series. It's a lot of fun. I've written down 2026, and I think that was based on guessing based on release years previously, but also 2026 might still be a bit optimistic. We'll see. Okay, then some more that I really have no idea when they'll be released, but I just kind of keep hoping that 2025 might be the year. I would love to get some more Alona Andrews. We are still waiting for more books in the Iron Covenant series, which I did see they're going to be working on next, so it's possible. I also think I saw them saying that they were working on another Wilmington Years novella, but I don't know what's happened with that. And I also did see them say once that the end of 2025 is when we would get another book in the Innkeeper Chronicles. Now, I feel like all of those are not going to be possible, especially alongside Maggie the Undying, but I'm infinitely hopeful. Then as well, I recently started the Imperial Ridge trilogy by Ann Leckie, starting with Ancillary Justice. I've only read 2 books in the series so far, and there have already been some others released, but it looks like Ann Leckie has just finished work on the next book in the series, which I think she's calling Temporal Location, but she also said that probably isn't the name it will be published under. Once again, probably optimistic to think it would come out in 2025, but you never know. So I'm keeping my eyes open. Same for Truly Devious 6 by Maureen Johnson. So this is like a YA mystery thriller series following this young girl who likes to solve murder mysteries. First 3 books were kind of one single mystery across the trilogy. Or actually, most of the time in these books we have like a historical mystery that she's solving as well as one in modern times. So the first 3 books were actually 2 murder mysteries, and then we had 4 and 5 come out that were like more standalone mysteries. But it also ended in like kind of a cliffhanger in terms of her personal life. So even though YA mystery thrillers aren't usually what I like, I am here waiting for Truly Devious 6. Also, another author that I really like is Cameron Hurley, who writes kind of sci-fi adventures, often kind of with a more military or like context of war. And she has been promising for a while a book called Losing Gravity. I haven't seen any kind of concrete release date recently, which does concern me, but I'm still going to hope that maybe it's 2025. Then as well, Victoria Schwab is supposed to have been working on Villains number 3. So the first book in that series was Vicious, then we had Vengeful. She is supposed to be working on a 3rd book in this series. This is a world where people have these kind of different superhero type powers, but a lot of them are not really very heroic. I do know her big release in 2025 is meant to be Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. To be honest, I'm not particularly interested in that one. I might pick it up anyway, but I haven't even bothered putting it on this list because I feel like that's disingenuous, and I would much prefer to get Villains number 3. So that's what I'm putting on the list. And to be honest, I saw something recently where she said she was behind on writing because she'd been spending all her time signing book plates for the books, because I think she made some kind of plan where like every edition in America of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil would be signed. And I see more and more authors doing this thing where they want to like sign every edition. Firstly, completely useless to those of us not in America, so I don't care about it from that perspective. But also, like, I would much prefer my favorite authors to be spending their time writing rather than ruining their hands signing a million books. You're going to give yourself horrible arthritis and not even be able to write? Please don't do that. Like, signed books don't mean that much to me. I'd rather have a new book. I don't get it. Anyway, then lastly, we have Alecto the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Now, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this for a while. I'm still hopeful. Maybe 2025 is the year. Now, once I have caught up on the series, I might start getting more impatient, but for now, I'm still full of hope. But maybe once I catch up on the series, I will move it on to the next part of my anticipated releases list, which is where we just have hopes and dreams and not much else. So firstly, Robin Hobb. She's been writing something. What's going to happen with that? I would like something, but there's been nothing concrete, so 2025 is probably completely delusional. Another thing I would really like is some more from the Six World series by Rebecca Roanhorse. I've kind of seen that it's unlikely she'll come back to that series, which I hate that. I hope it's not true. and I'm kind of just hoping now that she's finished the Between Earth and Sky trilogy that she would be allowed to come back to the Sixth World, because I love that. So fingers crossed. I also have the fourth book in the Gentleman Bastards series on my dreams list. As I said, I think Scott Lynch is procrastinating. I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon, but I keep it on my list of books that I'm hoping for. Also, Doors of Stone by Patrick Rothfuss, Winds of Winter by George R.R. Martin. I feel like I don't even need to talk about those two. I will, though, talk about Capitol's Tower by Melanie Rawn. This is one where I think now we've been waiting 20 years for the third book in the trilogy. And still, I keep it on the list. Every year I hope for an update. Will it ever happen? Maybe not. But if it did, it would be my top release, most exciting thing of the whole year. Anyway, those are all the books I'm excited about releasing in 2025, or not releasing, as the case may be. Do let me know if you're excited about any of these as well, or let me know if there's any book releases that I've missed that you're excited about. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.